$1,300 for one of these bad boys. I don't need to have this. I could never find a perfect setting for this. Either it was a bit too small or a bit too big, so it was never actually perfect. It's just not it for me. Hey, salam everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the UFK show. Hope y'all are doing well. And this is, at least presumably right now, the final installment of my review of the Apple Watch and my experience using it. Because it's been about roughly a month that I've been using it. And look, don't get me wrong. It is a very, very brilliant piece of technology. It is so amazing what it's able to do. But honestly, let me just start off with this. It's just not it for me. That's the most important thing, is that for me, I will not be using it. So that's just going to cut to the chase. I am not going to stick with the Apple Watch. There's usage cases for it, but at least not in my regular day-to-day life. So basically, if any of you have seen the previous episodes, you know that I purchased a bunch of them. I had 4 Apple Watches that I was experimenting with. I used all of them, everything from the base model 42 millimeter aluminum, jet black, which is the one I recommend to everyone. I think that is the most streamlined one. It's about half the price of an Ultra, and it's phenomenal. It gets you almost everything that you could possibly need. And it's just a good piece of technology. It's so slim. The form factor is just, right to the bottom of the wrist, and you don't notice it too much when you're sleeping, et cetera, et cetera. I used the basic silicon band. That one was phenomenal. I also used the titanium brand new one. That one was almost identical to the jet black. It's like a slight color variation, and I'm assuming it's the weight, et cetera. And that was, I think, the 46 millimeter, right? And again, it was very slim. It was great, but for the same price as the Ultra, the math wasn't mathing for me. For me, at least for the prices in Canada, it's roughly about $1,300 for one of these bad boys, and I think it was $500 for the aluminum, maybe like $700. Then it was almost, I think, $1,200 or $1,300 for the titanium models. So again, there was no real benefit. And then I also bought it in black and was using that. I didn't like the black one. Out of all of them, this one was my favorite. But the black one, something about the way that, like, if I hit it up against a wall, because this thing is tough, it would go and it would get this, the white paint would come off and it would just look so dirty. Anytime there was any kind of dirt, it just felt dirty. It felt like it wasn't clean. And again, the black and orange look also wasn't it for me. I truly feel like the natural titanium is the best one. And again, it hasn't really changed much over the last, I want to say, a year and a half, 2 years, because they really haven't made that. It's been very incremental changes. I think it was literally just a color change for this year to have a black option, which, again, if you're into that, you're into it. Again, I didn't really like it that much. Another thing to point out is the straps. I really don't mind. I'll say that. I don't mind the, the oceanic band or whatever it's called. I didn't want to have a fabric one because for me, when it gets wet, I don't like the feeling of like a wet strap. It's just not good. This one dries fairly quickly. I'm talking about, I barely notice it after I've taken a shower in it, et cetera, et cetera. It's been totally fine. Again, this is good, but it's just so bulky. Like, I don't know if you can see, but when it sits on my wrist, it just feels like it felt big. Whereas, the magnetic link, that one was pretty solid. I do recommend the magnetic link one. I think that one it would still get wet and it had that wet fabric feel, but it dried relatively quickly. It's a good one. So if you haven't seen you can look at the previous episodes. I'm going to go and ramble on too long about it. But anyways, I've done a comparison on all of them. And, just so you guys can see it again, this is how it looks on me. It's fairly big. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. It's fairly chunky. And that wasn't even the determining factor as to why I didn't want to hold on to it and keep it. The main reason is because in general, it felt cumbersome. Like, the more often I felt like I had to make the best use of it because, I needed to track my, the calorie expenditure, my active minutes, my standing minutes, my sleep. I wanted to make sure that was all done. So again, I felt like out of all the options I tried, this was the best one because it at least gave me, I think, a day and a half or 2 days of battery life. But even then, I'd always be stressing like, oh shoot, I got to take it off, charge it for a half hour, put it back on. It just became a long day. Like, genuinely. And I remember because in the previous videos I'd mentioned, I had an Apple Watch back in, I think it was 2019 or something like that, in Series 4. And I loved it. Again, it was a ridiculously expensive watch at that time as well. It was like, again, $1,400 for the stainless steel model. It looked dope. The Milanese was great. By the way, the new Milanese for the Ultra watch, horrible. Hands down the worst strap I've ever used. But the one for the stainless steel one at that time was pretty awesome, and I didn't mind it. But I stopped using it because it just felt like it was silly. It was silly having the exact same problem of always monitoring my life. And I get it. That's why people have an Apple Watch. But for me, I was like, I don't need a little watch. And it's helpful, I guess, if you're preparing for something. I will say that. If you're preparing for a specific sport, or you are an athlete, or you live a certain type of lifestyle where you need to know exactly what's going on, you're on like a little fitness kick, whatever it may be, and you need to know your active minutes, or you want to track your works, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, I get it. It makes sense. But for me, I was like, on the days that I wore it versus the days that I haven't, I just felt like I was just living more life, doing all the things I normally would have done without having to, like, I would go to the gym, I'd go and do my workout rather than go into the gym, go grab the Apple Watch, finicky around with it. Okay, got to start my workout, got to make sure, got to pause it, got to switch it from cardio to weightlifting, got to, like, what are we doing here? Just for me to be like, yeah, you know what? It's on record. I did it. I've closed my rings. I finally got the sparking emoji, and I was looking, and I was like, is this dopamine hit really it for me? Like, just to see the little spark and be like, yes, I stood for 12 hours. Or, yes, I've burned 500 calories. Like, a lot of the times I burned 500 calories and I didn't do anything that day. So I was just like, okay, so then let's say my base metabolic rate, whatever it is, that my calorie expenditure at a bare minimum is going to be 500. Very cool. That's awesome. I'm very happy to hear that. But now what? Like, what do I do with all this information I'm tracking? I had the same issue with the Oura Ring. Yes, I would wake up and I'd find out my sleep score. I'd find out how much I slept. And I started to do this with this. And I actually enjoyed this one better because I would look and just tell me the hours. I could look into a little bit more if I wanted to, but it just told me how much I slept. And that was enough for me. But even then, like, before I was wearing the Apple Watch, I would go and I would literally just wake up in the morning and be like, well, if I went to bed at 10 and it's 5 o'clock right now, I've slept for 7 hours. Like, that's it. Like, we can call it a day. Similarly, if I go to sleep at 12 and I wake up at 8, I've had 8 hours of sleep. It's very straightforward. I don't need to go and double check to make sure. I actually technically fell asleep at 12:15. And when I woke up, it was 10:36. And so I slept 10 hours and, yada, yada minutes. Like, that's just, or 9 hours something. At the end of the day, it just didn't, well, maybe. So now I guess I do need this. The math ain't math a little bit. But it was enough for me to know that, okay, I had a good amount of sleep or I didn't. And there is another side of it. All right. I'll say this. The Apple Watch, I guess if you are a very consistent person, I can see it being something that's really helpful to just see the consistency and the growth and the accumulation. For me, I'll be honest, there was a lot of it that was a bit negative for me. Like I would go and I'd check, and sometimes, like, look, because of my schedule, I'll have middle conversations and Zoom meetings, et cetera, with people across the country or across the world in a different time zone in the Middle East. So I'm gonna be waking up, or I'll stay up till like 4 or 5 a.m. to go and have a meeting at that time, or maybe 2 a.m. at that time, and then I go to sleep, but I have to wake up early because I got a bunch of stuff to do here. So I have maybe 4 or 5 hours sleep. It would just stare me in the face and be like, "Hey, you've had 3 or 4 hours sleep," and I'm like, "Ah, like I know." And so it's just that reinforcement that what I'm doing is not quote unquote healthy. Whereas like in regular life, I kind of just keep it moving and I'll catch up on the sleep where I can elsewhere. And then similarly, there were days where I just didn't do anything. And let's say I didn't close my activity ring and the little green one. And it's kind of like lame because it's like, well, I didn't want to do anything today. I just wanted to sleep, rest, recover. And now I haven't closed the ring. And I'm like, the streak is broken, And again, it doesn't mean anything. But for me, I was caring about something that I normally never cared about. Instead, I care about my day to day. I care about what's going on here, what's the best for my routine now, which is another massive thing that I should talk about. Is also, as you know, I am in the film industry, or you may not know, I am also an actor, a thespian. And so it's funny. I was at a red carpet event the other day, and I met somebody, and he was a cool dude. He's like, "Yo, dope suit." I was like, "Likewise, bespoke." It looked sick. He was a beast. And I was like, "Oh, like, are you an actor as well?" Because there were some producers there as well. And I was like, "You actor?" He's like, "Yes, I am a thespian." And I was like, "Hey, yo, that is an actor. Like, big ups, my guy." Because it was very interesting, super random that I've never had that experience in over a decade of being in the film industry. I've never had somebody reply to it to be like, "Yes, I am a thespian." It was very old world, but the dude was very old world, man. He looked like a G. Shout out to that dude. But I digress. So the thing is yes, I am in the film industry. I'm an actor, and it's it's something that when I'm acting, when I'm on set, when I'm working on anything, I I can't have a giant chunky piece of tech that makes no sense for any character of all time unless they're like a full-on athlete. Like I just can't be wearing this. I can't. It makes zero sense. So I'll have to take it off. And now let's say for example I'm on set for a whole day. I'm not wearing the Apple Watch. Now I'm not tracking my metrics. And isn't that what this whole thing is for? So it's like I get it. I'm ranting heavy right now. And for a lot of people watching, it's like, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Don't wear it. But for me, I also wanted to share that, yes, just because everyone at this point now, it feels like is wearing an Apple Watch, or at least in my world that I see that I'm like, shoot, like so many people got the Apple Watch. They speak so highly of it, how it makes your life convenient. Because it does. Like pros wise, I will say this. The pros on this is it's super convenient to just quickly see if there is a notification. It's super convenient to put it up to your mouth and just talk to Siri. It's super convenient to have the AirPods connect to this and then you have your music on. And then if you have the cellular option, which by the way, unfortunately, you got to pay $10, $15 extra a month to actually have that subscription. But you can go out with just the watch and you're good to go. It's cool to be able to answer or make a call on this. Like there are so many beneficial things to it. It was nice to just quickly have something that showed the time so accurately. This had a compass on it. So for me, like I pray and I always need to know where north is. So it's like it would tell me where north is. And I just quickly and I was like, oh, cool. And it was fairly accurate. There was what else did I use it for? Just to see the weather, just quickly looking at it. But like a lot of this, I can just quickly grab my phone, look at it, and I'm good to go. Whereas like yes, it is convenient and it's nice, but for me, for my lifestyle, it just doesn't make sense to have that. Like the pros were not outweighing the cons of me feeling like this is a almost a burden. Like my phone, I know I have to have that. Like, like I don't know about y'all, I cannot live without this, unfortunately. Like I rely on this so heavily that it's it's a non-negotiable, unfortunately, at this point in my life that I gotta I'll charge it whenever it needs to charge. I will work around my life for this. For this, as beneficial as it was, I don't need to go and plan out when am I going to charge this before bed or when I wake up, because that was the weird time. Sometimes it was in the morning time that it needed to be charged. Sometimes it was at nighttime that it needed to be charged. So that like whole routine was a bit weird. So again, it wasn't even consistent, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't need to have this. I don't need to make sure that my watch is fully charged, so that way I know that when I go to bed at night, I know exactly how much I slept, because it's not going to change what time I need to go to sleep. What's going to change when I need to go to sleep is, do I have meetings at night? Do I have an early call time in the morning? Do I have a meeting that I got to do? Do I get to sleep in because I have nothing prepped for the day? That's what's going to go and define me. That's where I'm going to go and schedule my day and my routine, not because of this. And on top of it, it's just quite big, clunky, and chunky. Every time I would go and hit something, I'm like, oh shoot, I just hit this. Or when I'm going to bed, like I would notice. And I felt like I could never find a perfect setting for this. Either it was a bit too small or a bit too big. So it was never actually perfect, which was kind of nice. Even though with the leather magnetic one, I would have to finicky around. It was very finicky. But after I finagled with it, is what I'm trying to say, is that I would be able to find like a sweet spot where I felt relatively happy about it. And again, I feel like it made it smaller, but it also doesn't have that many color options. If they had that in like a white or a gray, I think I actually would have liked it a lot more. But I digress. I'm not going to be using this that often anymore. Like the point of this all is that I don't see myself actually charging this and putting it on my wrist and living my day-to-day life with it on a regular basis, because it's just not convenient for me. It's actually lacking convenience. So I feel like this is for people who have a locked-in routine. It's for athletes. It's for kids who, just want to wear a nice, fancy, cool watch and tech, and they get to have another little piece of thing to work around their life. For me, as somebody who I enjoy optimizing my life, I find that this doesn't optimize it, because right now, health is not my priority, which is crazy and horrible as that sounds. It's more about, what are my goals? If I am working on, a business that I'm trying to start up, that I have to focus on, make sure that it's good to go. I have issues going on internationally that I have to, not issues, that sounds ridiculous. But if there's just meetings or potential synergies in a different time zone, I got to take care of those. If I have a film coming up, if I have a film, right now, I'm prepping for a role where I just need to lose weight. That for me is fine. I don't really need to monitor it too much. I feel like if I had a role where I needed to like be really serious about my fitness again, like the boxing film that I did, I may consider actually getting this again or using it again, because it's going to be something that would be very helpful to know exactly how good my workouts are, making sure my sleep's on point, making sure. But then again, I think about it, I'm like, what about rehearsals? What about when we go and I gotta take it off, and then it's just for the workouts? I can track it roughly. Like, I've been working out long enough. Alhamdulillah, I'm Mubarak. Like, God bless. I'm able to actually know what's going on when I do my workout. So this is not the end all be all. I'm going round and round about this, but the reality is the Apple Watch is great for a lot of people, and it was fun using all of them, but it's just not for me, As much as I really wanted this to be like a staple, it's just not it. And I think for a lot of people, they're gonna really, really love using this. It's gonna be super convenient, but who knows? Maybe at a later point in my life, when things slow down and my priority is, on my Brian Johnson thing, where I think that's his name, the guy who's like optimizing his life because he, that's all he really cares about. Yeah, maybe I'll do this. And who knows? Maybe I should try out Whoop. But like, I feel like that's the same problem with Whoop. I see it everywhere. I feel like, okay, for sure, everyone's got a Whoop. The marketing is insanity on Whoop. And as much as I think that that's dope and the system is great, I just think that, like, again, that doesn't even track my steps. So it's like, that was one thing that was really annoying about it. And then on top of it, I just don't feel like I can live life always having this thing where, yes, I can take it off when I'm acting, but you know what? No, I will keep an open mind about it. At some point, I'm going to try out a Whoop, and then I'll give a review on that. I feel like I've been like throwing this around everywhere. Let me just actually put this down, because that's where it's going to be. It's down now. That's it. I think I'm okay with the Apple Watch for the time being. I'll probably just, and also when I was wearing like any type of jewelry, which I do, I found that I was always like, okay, well, there's now too much on my wrists. So I'd either not wear some of the things that I like to wear, or I'm wearing two watches now. I'm wearing like a watch that has a lot of meaning to me. And then I also have this Apple Watch that I gotta have to track everything. What else can I say at this point? I'm sure there is probably more, because I'm always just rambling on about something, especially if you want to know my actual thoughts on it. I think it's a phenomenal product. It's incredible technology. It's just not for me. Well, that's it. I hope everybody's doing well. Inshallah, I hope y'all are having a better and amazing whenever, wherever y'all are at. And till the next time, I'll talk to y'all then. Yalla, everyone. Salam.